welcome to another episode of the Dio Samuel Report. This is Dio Samuel reporting live from somewhere in the world. Today we will talk about how generalists win in the age of AI. Now, we all know that each age has been characterized by different things in the history of humans. Humans have been through different phases in historical development, and every single age have been delineated because it brought about a radical shift in the way humans relate to the world and the way they relate to each other. Now, the characterization of each age, what we have found is that the characterization of each age does not come before the age. It actually happens maybe a couple of years into that age. And we all know that while technology has certainly lifted humans out of poverty and enriched our lives in many ways, so many ways, it has also made some parts of the world increasingly complex and difficult to navigate. Now, if you're just joining me, this is another episode. This is episode 5 of the Dio Samuel Report. And today we are discussing how generalists win in the age of AI. So far, from the episode 1 down to this episode, we've been talking about how generalists can actually. In episode 1, we talked about how jack of all trades, how they become experts rather than specialize. In episode 2, we talked about how generalists, how they master multiple skills in less time. In episode 3, we talked about how generalists build businesses. In episode 4, we talked about how generalists build businesses, and I gave a couple of examples, including Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, and Aliko Dangote. Today, we are looking at how generalists actually win in the age of AI. I'm going to take this off my hand right now. So, let's talk about that. Let's get into that conversation. And again, if you're joining me live, happy to engage with you as we go on. So, just as I was saying, that even though technology has accomplished a couple of things in the history of human, especially in the last 100 years thereabout, we all know that the rapid disruption of many established industries has also meant that even the most intelligent and conscientious individuals have had to struggle to stay relevant. Why has that been happening? Well, it's because the more modernized the global economy becomes, it kind of inundates, it comes with so much information that it becomes difficult sometimes to make sense of all of this different information. And for some people, they can't even figure out how to make all the right decisions. And so, for some people, they spend years broke, jobless, underemployed, or burnt out. Now, we are not, based on the trajectory of history, we are not actually weaker or stupider than our ancestors. The world, however, has become a lot more challenging than before, and we need to go through more trial and error than they did in order for them to achieve a secure and comfortable existence. And that's what's currently going on with the time that we're in. So the more we are having continuous technological development, it will increase abundance in some way, but it will also isolate and exonerate, or maybe even annihilate an entire industry, an entire phase of human existence, perhaps. Now, what I really, really want to share with you in this episode is to help you understand that as we enter into the age of AI, because AI is going to be taking care of a lot of things, it's now beginning to appear that we have to actually embrace a broad skill set that not only keeps us relevant, but also allow us to thrive in an era that will be dominated by AI. So first, let's understand that AI is not completely new. Even though many people think that AI is a new technology, AI is not actually a new technology. It has just reached a peak if you are familiar with what Gartner calls hype cycle or the maturation of technology, there's a book behind me here that actually talks about that. If you have gotten to that level, or no, if you're familiar with the Gartner cycle of how technology matures, you'll get to understand that even though AI has been in existence for the last couple of years, it's only been in prominent conversations between the last 3 years thereabout, specifically between 2022 and now. And so since 2022, AI has been thrown around a lot more than usual, and companies have begun to take advantage of this to mislabel their products or services as powered by AI. Now, in order to understand the evolution of technology, you also need to understand what was significant about the many ages that we've had in the past. In the 18th century, it was usually called the Age of Reason. They called it the Age of Enlightenment. It was that age where publishing came into being, printing press came into existence. A lot of things came into existence in that century. In the 19th century, that was when first electronics, first telephone call, like people like Graham Bell, um, Thomas Edison invented the light bulb, Morse code. Um, that was industrial revolution. And by the way, that industrial revolution was politicized as quickly as it began, such that industrial revolution, even though it was taking place across the world, they kind of some people came together and said, you know what, industrial revolution is not going to find expression in some parts of the world, including places like Africa, particularly Nigeria, um, a little bit of some parts of India, where industrial revolution actually was kind of taken out, so that people will not, so that industrial revolution will not take place there. But again, moving on. In the 20th century, we found that the industrial revolution that started in the 19th century became the the foundation for World War One, World War Two, nuclear power, space exploration. In 1902, interestingly, because we're talking about generalists, in 1902 was when the word ADHD, um, hyperattention deficit disorder, I think, yeah, that should be the meaning. ADHD, that's where the word was first mentioned. And in 1905, Albert Einstein came up with E equals mc squared, which is how energy changes form, that the energy does not get destroyed. I was even watching a video, a movie about Albert Einstein a couple of days ago, actually weeks ago, and I realized that that theory of Albert Einstein actually shaped the next couple of years, even up until now. It still continues anyway, so we don't think it has ended. Now, what we found is that in the 21st century, however, it was labeled as information age. And what we found with that is with information age, things like climate change also began to be talked about. There began to be shift towards clean energy, extinction on renewable energy, fuel fossils, and things like that are beginning to be phased out. And there is a projection that by the year 2050, Mars is going to get populated. There will be no more room on Earth because everywhere is going to be so full of people because people are would have. And some people also say some people are trying to reduce the world population and all that. Now, what I'm trying to help you understand is that if you think about all the different generations, all the different ages that we've had, you'll find that in all of those ages, the people who really create the major changes that have taken place, really, they are not so much of hyper specialized people. In fact, while the lab technicians may be very hyper specialized, the people who actually create the technology themselves are not that hyper specialized. Instead, they are people who are a little bit of generalist. Talk about Leonardo da Vinci, talk about Albert Einstein himself. Albert Einstein was actually not a specialist, he was a generalist specialist. So he was generally seen as somebody who could do a lot of things. Of course, he played violin, he was interested in a lot of things. And that's why I'm particularly campaigning that because you are a generalist, because you are interested in a lot of things, please see that as an advantage because you can bring something from this world and apply it to this world. That's exactly what I want you to understand from this entire conversation. So let's talk about a little bit about what happens when generalists, as AI begin to take over jobs, because actually, even though the news tend to be saying that AI is that there is mass layoff going on because of AI replacing people at their work, we found, and some reports have actually shown that it is not really AI that is taking over their job. It is just humans who inflation rate was the main reason why the jobs are getting lost, not necessarily because AI is taking over their job. So, having said that, let's have a little bit of discussion here. So, I want you to follow me with this a little bit of thought pattern. So, artificial intelligence actually does a lot. And by the way, I've used artificial intelligence. I've used AI since 2022 when AI came out. I've used AI almost every single month. What you will notice is that artificial intelligence excels at optimization, swiftly mastering specific, repeatable tasks. So AI does very well when you can give it very specific instructions, right? Now, what we find is that that creates a little bit of pressing challenge because some of these challenges often require cross-disciplinary thinking and human creativity, where it happens that that's where generalists role. Generalists can cross pollinate ideas from one field to another. They can, so for example, let's say you are using AI to gather information about something, or maybe kind of research through doing an AI research into a particular subject. And as you're reading, you discover that no, maybe this will probably be. You are able to connect multiple dots together because that is how generalists think. And historically, you'll find that during the Renaissance era, polymaths like Leonardo da Vinci could didn't just stick to one discipline. He explored, and as many polymaths as possible actually explored everything from astronomy to engineering to art to anatomy. And their diverse expertise allowed them to innovate in areas where specialists would often miss. It's even said that by 2030, that AI will probably automate 30% of tasks in most jobs. What that means is that interdisciplinary knowledge, generalists, will see a rise in demand as the world gets to experience more of AI. Now, talking about Leonardo da Vinci, he was the quintessential Renaissance man that everybody always referred to as when they say Renaissance man, Renaissance man. Now, Renaissance, in its word, simply meant someone who could do many things, who is not an expert of one, but an expert of many fields. That's what the Renaissance man means. Leonardo da Vinci was made a statement. He said, "Study the art of science, study the science of art, and realize that everything connects to everything else." So that is, every single thing connects to everything else. Now, for someone to be able to see the connectedness of everything, you will need to be a generalist to be able to see that. If you're a specialist, you can only see the connection to just one part. You will not be able to see the connection to another thing, which is where generalists actually do a lot better. Now, there's a quote I came across this week by Charlie Munger, and he said the first rule is that you really can't know anything if you just remember the isolated facts and try and bring them together. If the facts don't hang together on a lattice of theory, you don't have them in a usable form. So you've got to have models in your head and you've got to arrange or array your experience, both vicarious and direct, on the lattice of models. Now, what that meant is that you need to have models in your mind in order to be able to process how things are changing rapidly. So, and one of the things that I realized that I've also found in my own experience is that if you're a generalist, you are able to you think in models, you think in boxes. And when I say boxes, I'm not saying that think outside the box. That's not what I mean. I mean, you think in frames. So certain times your mind will be around certain frame. If you explore that curiosity actually takes you down a path where you're able to discover, find things that someone else may not be able to find. The interesting thing is that that curiosity always leads to another curiosity. In fact, that even brings me to the things that I'm going to be talking about in this episode. So, how do you actually shine as a generalist in this age that we're in right now? Well, first thing is for you to cultivate curiosity. And when I say cultivate curiosity, I mean start by focusing on a wide range of interests. Curiosity is your compass. By design, you are a very curious human being. You are not the type of human who, uh, like I've started saying, is energy flows where energy goes. Curiosity is how you channel energy. In this age of AI that we're in, because we don't know whether it's going to be called age of AI yet, or maybe it's going to be called age of automation, depending on whatever label is used, but we know that AI is going to play a major role in how humans evolve over the next couple of years. So if you cultivate curiosity, if you allow yourself to explore your curiosity, what you'll find is that you may actually land on a completely different field that specialists may not be able to discover. That means if you read widely, from whether it's literature to science to fiction to non-fiction to tech to and everything in between. For example, it was generalist Elon Musk that came up with the idea of PayPal, right? That all of us that identify that PayPal is Elon Musk's creation. Did you know that the idea of PayPal, that is people to be able to send currency or the flow of currency digitally, did you know that Elon Musk actually found it from a fiction book simply because he was reading very, very widely and he was able to explore his curiosity. And that's the first thing we need to understand in this age of AI that we are in. Cultivate curiosity, allow your curiosity to lead you down certain paths, but make sure that that curiosity does not take you off important things that you need to do. Now, second thing that I would like to talk about is that you need to cross-train your brain. Now, how do I mean by cross-training your brain? By design, your brain is able to adapt to changing information, to changing ideas. Your brain is able to accommodate multiple ideas at the same time. A friend of mine used to ask me that, how are you able to read two divergent opinions at the same time? What that means is that sometimes I'm reading something that says that this is the all-in-one solution to this problem. And at another point, at the same point, I'm also reading something else that says that every solution to this problem is trash. No problem exists yet. So, for example, there was a time I was exploring the topic of cancer, and a lot of solutions were saying that okay, this is what works, and some solutions were saying this is what works. This is what works to solve cancer. And I was discussing that with a friend of mine, and my friend was telling me that, how are you able to hold opposing ideas in your head so much? Now, what that has allowed me to do over the years is it helps me to know that there is actually no complete picture to everything. Every single human, especially when they are specialists, when they are writing, they are only writing from their research based on, and for example, all research is coming from a place of an hypothesis. An hypothesis is defined from what I want to find out. Unlike a journalist, a scientist approaches from let's figure out if this thing is true. Sometimes, even if it's not true, the scientists become ashamed to come back and say that that thing that I said that that thing is not true. But if you approach from the lens of a journalist, it allows you to say, okay, this thing is not true. So what else could be true? Now, when I talk about cross-training your brain, again, you need to engage in learning activities that aren't directly related to your primary field. By that, if you're a programmer, for example, you need to try your hand at perhaps maybe user interface design, user experience design, and maybe graphic design, or maybe even creative writing. Of course, if you write better, you may be able to code better. If you know how interfaces work, you may be able to help you create better codes. It may be able to help you write better programs. So you might want to explore different fields or maybe related fields to your main field. Now, the cross-disciplinarian actually excels the person who focuses on just one thing, because the cross-disciplinary training of someone who is versatile, is adaptable, allows you to think more flexibly and come up with innovative solutions. Case in point is, at my job, I'm employed as a user experience designer. Because I'm versatile, because I can do all things, I can do literally many things. I'm handling graphic design as well at my job. But more importantly, I'm also working on marketing. That is, I also belong to the marketing team. So when we are doing communications and marketing team, I'm able to contribute from the point of someone who's had the experience of running a media and marketing company in the past. So I'm not just contributing from just designing though. I'm contributing from the perspective from as someone who has interest in other fields that are related to my job as a designer. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? So you need to cross-train your brain, especially as AI becomes excuse for job layoffs. You need to become so valuable that that your employer will be like, this guy brings so much value to this company that if you lay him off, we wonder if we're going to be able to find someone else that can replace what he's doing. Let's go to the third point. And the third point is for you to, as we enter into the age of AI, in order for you to win, you need to emphasize a lot of soft skills. Now, as AI takes over more technical and repetitive tasks, human centric tasks, um, skills that only humans can have, like leadership, creativity, empathy, negotiation, coaching, ethical judgment, some of these skills need to become more critical. They actually are becoming more critical because, as for example, I remember a video I did a couple of months back. It was a short video, and I said that only humans can check on you, and AI cannot check on another human. AI requires you to talk to it before it can actually come back and check on you. There's the amount of programming that makes AI to suddenly check up on you and say, I just want to check on you, hope you're fine, hope everything is okay. If you found AI that's as complex as doing that, please you can share that with me so I may be wrong. Now, I've had training in transformative technology. By transformative technology, I mean using things like VR, as you can see directly at my back here. As you can see directly at my back here, there's a VR device. Now, I got that from the training that I was when I took part in the training. So, for example, while transformative tech helps us understand that as technology, as AI advances, humans will need a lot of transformative technologies in their lives. And one of the core fields that we studied then was biofeedback, where using artificial intelligence, you could read human expression and determine what's going on in their minds. While we were going through that program, we found that, well, in my own research, we found that some of those things, some of that AI was doing suggestive deduction. It was only deducing based on, okay, if somebody else has felt like this, maybe this other person is also feeling like that. Elsewhere, what we found was that sometimes when people go into certain train of thought, their facial expression gets in. So, for example, let's say I'm thinking about something right now and I'm doing like this, and AI says that, oh, I'm anxious. That may not be completely correct. So, soft skills required for you to be able to know what makes humans. And I remember back then when I was running the Direct Summer Research Multiversity, one of the things I kept saying is our work is to preserve what it means to be human in a world taken over by advancements in technology. Interestingly, this was before there was anything called AI. That was what we were working towards. And I remember we launched a startup called, let me mute the, I'm not going to mention the name of the startup, but the startup never saw the light of day. And that's something that I'm going to talk about perhaps maybe one day soon. I'm going to talk about that soon. Sometime I'm going to talk about the fact that I launched a startup and it never saw the light of day because of the environment I was in when I launched that startup. Now, next thing that you need to also know in order to win in an age of AI as a generalist, you need to adopt a T-shaped skill set. Now, last week I talked about verticals and horizontals, right? I talked about verticals being that you can cover multiple markets with one single service, or you can have one market and one service and explore different parts or different what they call value chain analysis. You can come into that and just explore all the different value chains you can get from just one market. Now, while vertical or horizontal is straight line like this. By the way, I'm one of those people who don't know the difference between vertical, horizontal, row, and column. So if I miss them, it's just part of human. So what I realized was on the horizontal axis, it's about one market or one service offered to multiple markets. On the vertical, it is about one market but multiple services. Now, as we enter into the world that is going to be predominantly dependent on AI, you need to adopt a T-shaped skill set. So while general knowledge is valuable, depth in at least one area will provide you with a competitive edge. So that means even though you are a generalist, you can go across like this, you still need to have a T-shape. That is, even though you can have one service delivered over multiple markets, you still need to have one market where you can deliver multiple services. Because becoming T-shaped means that you are able to go very deep into one subject, even though you have other subjects that can complement that one subject. That is not specialism. It is basically a concept they call becoming T-shaped. And what that means is that you need to go broad in many areas with deep expertise in a few of them. Now, this combination will raise you far above every single person who plays in the market or in the field that you will find yourself as the world changes soon. And of course, the world is already changing rapidly, isn't it? Now, if I explain that to you very well, let me give you a little bit of context for that. So what you find is, so for example, right now, I call myself a research content and design strategist. What that means to a lot of people is that I am a research strategist, I'm a design strategist, I'm a content strategist. No, that is not who I am. What that means is I have looked at all the different skills I have and I've been able to create a category out of that. In this category of research content and design strategists, I have buckets of specific depth. Under research, I have a very peculiar, specific way, a particular depth in the area of research. There's a way I look at research that some people don't look at research. For example, research also includes thinking. It's not just publishing. It's not just writing. So in my own context, research includes thinking because, again, that's something that I wouldn't say yet. So thinking is part of that research process. Now, under content, what I'm doing right now, media is part of that, right? Media is part of that when it comes to content. Under design, of course, Canva, for example, is part of the things that I talk about under design. Now, in fact, as a shameless plug here, I'm running a workshop in collaboration with Lincolnshire Black Community Network, somewhere in the university, at the University of Lincoln, in the city of Lincoln, United Kingdom, in England. So if you are in or around Lincoln, I'll be happy to see you at the workshop coming this Friday. If you want to register for that, simply go to dayosamuel.com. That is dayosamuel.com. Like you can see on my screen at dayosamuel.com/Canva. It's going to take you to the registration page. And you can simply register. You get the full details of where it's going to hold. So I'll look forward to seeing you there. But let me go back to talking about the different categories. So while I have a category as a research content and design strategist, I've searched the entire internet. I've not been able to find anybody who combines all those three together. Now, under research, again, I have my own very specific process of doing research. In fact, I remember when I was the research director of a company, of a crypto company, I actually had to record a video to share to work the people who were working under me, or people who were working with me, because I don't like under. The people who were working with me, I had to record a video to share with them how I do research, so that they can understand how I actually do research and what I'm looking to get from everything that they are going to be putting together. Under content, there's a particular way I create content. Under design, there's, for example, Canva is one of the tools that we talked about. So if you look at it, research content design, that is a general strategy. That's a general, but I also have depth under each of that. In the world that we are going into, you will need something like that. You will need to be broad in many areas and deep in specific areas. So you need to have broad interest, deep expertise. Broad interest, deep expertise. I hope that is clear. Now, the next thing, if you want to win in the age of AI, is for you to constantly stay updated and adapt as things change. What that means is that you need to keep your skills fresh with continuous learning. Online courses, webinars, conferences, books, particularly books. I recommend books because I have found that now I have a bias towards books written in 2023 because a lot of them have AI content. Well, not all of them, but a lot of books are now having AI content. There's a book, I bought 3 books on the same topic some months ago, and only the one that was written in 1970 something had the original content. The 2 others, because it was written in 1990 something, had original content. But the original content of that 1990 was based on 1970 book. But the one that was published in 2023 literally had no original content. Everything in the book was literal fluff. I mean, literal fluff. Till now, I've not highlighted any single thing in the book compared to the 1970 something book that I bought and the 1990 something book that I bought. What I'm trying to say here is, if you're going to get books, if you're going to stay updated, because staying updated means you have to read books within the last 5 years, books within the last 10 years. Now, of course, if you are a researcher, you know that when you are quoting reference materials, your materials must not be outdated. So that's why I'm saying that if you are going to use books, make sure the books are very relevant to what what you are interested in, and make sure that it's not a book that's really, maybe I will talk about how I kind of determine the kind of books I read. All right, so when it comes to learning, LinkedIn learning, online course places, or even YouTube, for example, you're watching this video, this podcast, you're listening to me right here on YouTube, or maybe you're even listening to it on Spotify, Apple, wherever it is you're listening to a podcast from. You're probably listening to me from any part of the world right now. This platform you are listening from right now has a lot of learning content, podcasts, YouTube videos. For people, now let me just make it clear that the reason why I switched the format of my video to long form video podcast is because I realized that some things cannot be completely taught in very short clips, like maybe 30-second video, 1-minute video, even 7-minute video will not be enough to cover certain topics. That's why I switched to podcast format. All right, I've just put that out there. So if you got me, thank you very much. All right, so what can we take from all of these that I've just shared with you? Everything I've just shared with you here now. Again, to recap the things I've just mentioned, number one is for you to cultivate curiosity. Again, just talking about curiosity, the quote that I read to you earlier on from Leonardo da Vinci is that you need to study the science, the art of science, and study the science of art, and you realize that everything connects to everything else. Now, how does all of this play out? How is it applied? Now, if you look at the story of Steve Jobs of Apple, who happens to be a generalist, another generalist example, Steve Jobs was interested in a lot of things. He was not just interested in making great products. Just as with what I shared in episode 3 and episode 4 of this podcast, what I've been trying to say is every generalist who has built something successful have harnessed all of their interests and pointed towards solving specific problems. That is how you create innovative, or you create something really, really unique in the world. So what Steve Jobs did, for example, was Steve Jobs was a meditator. He does a lot of meditation. But aside from meditation, he was also he took a calligraphy class. Yes, he took a calligraphy class, and it was in the calligraphy class that he learned the aesthetic sensibility that can be adapted to products. So, for example, you notice that a lot of Apple products use curves compared to other products that have sharp edges. It was from all of those calligraphy class that he understood that, oh, if everything about writing seems to be curves, what if we make products curves? Instead of making Apple sharp, what if you can make it aesthetically pleasing? What if you can make it a more something that looks finer to the eyes? And if you want to understand what I mean, you can go look for the initial version of an Apple computer and the initial version of an IBM computer, or maybe you can go look for them. You will see the drastic change that happened when he began to apply something he was learning from calligraphy, which does not have anything to do with computers, when he began to apply them to computers. Or even if you take, let's say, Elon Musk, from PayPal to SpaceX, you'll find out Elon Musk's ability, real ability, is able to integrate knowledge across fields and utilize that integration of knowledge to disrupt industries. Is disrupted electronic vehicles, is disrupted finance industry, is currently disrupting social media with the change to Twitter. I hope you understand what I'm trying to explain here. Now, if you have a job, because I know I'm speaking to a lot of persons who have jobs. Now, if you have a job, how do you future-proof your career as a generalist? Well, this not so controversial, but this may be very exciting for you. What I recommend to you is start a side project that combines different disciplines. Start a side project that allows you to explore something completely different from what your job requires. So, for example, if your job requires you to be a designer and you are interested in maybe music or you are interested in software, what if you start a stride project that allows you to combine that design, that music and software together? So that could be a tech blog that explores the intersection of maybe, let's say, AI and human ethics, or maybe a community workshop teaching coding through art, or maybe it could literally be any product. You just need to sit down and figure out. And by the way, I have some AI prompts that can help you do that. AI prompt that I created by reason of a lot of experimentation and, of course, testing it out with real humans through the beta test of my forthcoming course, Niche Mastery Method. Now, Niche Mastery Method, interestingly, there's a free version of that, which you can find at diosamuel.com/waitlist. So if you're interested in getting the course, you can literally go right now to diosamuel.com/waitlist. And you will be able to get that. Now, again, that's diosamuel.com/waitlist. And you're able to sign up for the email course so that you get it when it comes out. It includes AI prompts that you can literally use with any AI. I used it with ChatGPT. Someone used it with Gemini. Another person used it with Perplexity. Someone else has actually used it with Claude AI. So you can literally, it's been tested, it's been tried, so it works now. As I wrap up this episode, I want you to begin to think about this way. As we look forward to the evolution of AI in a world that is requiring a lot of specialization, AI is making people to become more generalist than specialists. The individuals that will most likely succeed in the world that we're getting into will be individuals who can integrate knowledge across domains. Will be individuals who can think creatively about complex problems. Will be individuals who can navigate the human dimensions of work that AI cannot replicate. That is who a generalist is. That is who a polymath is. So before you go, I want you to keep this in mind. Naval Ravikant said that the future belongs to those who learn more skills and combine them in creative ways. So start today, explore, learn, and be ready to adapt. The age of AI or automation isn't just about technology. It's about how humans are able to take advantage of the incredible potential of the human mind to shape the experience or their experience of artificial intelligence. Like I will always say, original intelligence is still required to get the most out of artificial intelligence. You can quote me anywhere on that. Original intelligence is still required to get the most out of artificial intelligence. Thank you for joining me on this episode of the Diosama Report. If you have questions or you like what I'm talking about here, please subscribe, share this with someone, and I'll see you in the next episode. I'm Diosama, and this has been the Diosama Report. Thank you for joining me. See you in the next episode.